Okay. There are two things that are certain in life. Yeah. Taxes. Okay. So, I think it was Mark Twain who said that. Yeah, it wasn't me. I didn't make it up. Okay, so when you live in a city or a municipality, which is the fancy name for a city, a town, or a district, they have to collect money in order to sustain the municipality. That means, keeping roads and bridges up to date, sewage systems, what else? Arts and recreation programs that are offered from the government, fire and paramedic services, community services, which is like arts and recreation things, okay? And waste collection are just a few examples. So they have to pay for that. So the way that they pay for that is that they collect taxes on properties. Okay? So that is what we call a property tax. How it's done, okay, is it's based on the market value system. So it's based on the market value of your house. Now, you don't need to know how the actual tax rates are calculated, but I'll just sort of briefly tell you how it's sort of done. So what they do is they assess, your property is assessed based on the market. It may not, and that may not be how much your house sells for. Okay, your house might sell for less than the market value. Your house might sell for more. It depends on how hot the housing market is. So what they do is they say, okay, this is what your home is worth, and then we're going to take a portion of that, and that's what we're going to assess a property tax on. Okay. So the portion percentage is assigned to each type of property, and they calculate the portion assessment. So to calculate a portion assessment, all they do is take whatever the portion percentage is, and we're not going to go into that. They take the portion percentage times the assessed value. And of course, as a percentage, you change it to decimal. Then they say, okay, this amount is what we're going to calculate your property tax on. And the tax rate for property taxes is called a mill rate. It's just another name for it, mill rate. So whenever you see the word mill rate, it's like property taxes, and actually that applies to education taxes as well, which we'll talk about shortly. Okay? So to calculate the property tax rates, what the municipality will do is they'll take the total revenue that they need, the total amount of money they need for all the services that they provide. Okay, so this is actually how they do it, is they don't just come up with a magical rate. They say, okay, this is how much money we're going to need this year in order to offer the services that we want to offer. From that, they're going to calculate what the property tax rate is going to be. Okay? And then they take all the homes and they add them up to get the total portion assessment of all the homes in the municipality. And then they times it by 1,000. And that's the property tax rate, or the mill rate. That's the reason they call it mill rate, because milli is a prefix for 1,000. Okay. Now, all that being said, you don't need to know this. but I did want to show you sort of how they come up with the tax rate. But in terms of actual things that you're going to be assessed on, you don't need to know. You're just going to be given the property tax rate. Okay? And then you'll calculate how much a person or a family owes in property taxes. So just as an example, and you can find this, whoa, what happened there? If you Google Winnipeg property tax assessment, you can find out the market value of your home. So for me, and yes, if I type this in, you'll know where I live. Okay. Oh, right. Okay. So here, you just type your house number and your street name, and it gives you everything, all the information that they require. So I'm not afraid to show this. So my assessed value of my home is $435,000. It's a two-story home. It's almost 1,200 square feet. And then it lists things like when it was built. So mine was built in 1945. It's got a finished basement. This has actually not been updated because I do have air conditioning. And then I have a detached garage. And then it also talks about my frontage, which we're going to talk about later. Okay, so you can get all that information. Access Winnipeg Property Tax Assessment. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on how to calculate them. So property tax is made up of two subdivisions. Your municipal taxes, remember that's municipality, so that's your like city taxes or town taxes, and your education taxes, like I said, which we'll talk about later. Okay? So to calculate them, we use the portion assessment of your home and the property tax rates for the mill rates. And like I said, again, you're not going to be asked to calculate portion assessments or mill rates. They're always going to be provided with you. Okay? So municipal taxes. We're going to talk about municipal taxes and education taxes. And then together, that's going to give us our total property tax. So when you calculate your municipal tax, you get a tax rate on the portion assessment of your home. Plus, you may have to pay for any improvements being done to your area. And I'll talk about that in a second. But for the first portion of municipal rates, you calculate your general municipal tax. And that's the total portion assessment of your home. Divided by 1,000, so we're talking about mill rates, times whatever the municipal mill rate is. So you're charged on every $1,000 of your home, much like when we did calculating mortgages. The mortgage rates were always based on like $1,000 that your home was worth. Now, we'll get into this later in the year when we start to review for the provincial exam. But like I said, there is a reference sheet that you're allowed to use. However, there's also a formula sheet that you're provided. A lot of the stuff, a lot of the formulas that we've been doing so far are given on the formula sheet. So we won't worry about those, putting those on a reference sheet, but we'll talk about, okay, what are some of the things that we should have on a reference sheet. So that's calculate the municipal tax portion of your municipal taxes. The other section is the local improvement taxes. Okay? And that's calculated based on the frontage of your home. The frontage of your home means how wide your front yard is. That's all it means. Okay? And usually it's like 40 to 50 feet is usually, unless, of course, you live in a mansion or something, where it might be more than that. So to calculate your local improvement tax, you take whatever your frontage is in feet times the cost of the improvements. You will always be provided with these various costs, and you can see them in the table below. So, for example, you can see here that if they're constructing a sidewalk on your street, chances are you'll have to pay a local improvement tax of $786 times whatever the width of your home is. Oh, sorry, whatever the width of your property is. There's a difference between property. Okay, so things like road resurfacing, lane paving, things like that, oiling, sewers, water mains, lighting. Okay, all of these things are broken down. I think on my last property tax, and I usually bring it in, I think I had lane paving, although they haven't done anything with our lane as of yet, and there's like enormous potholes. So can't wait for them to start doing something. So you get your general municipal taxes, you get your local improvement taxes, and then you add them together to get your municipal taxes. Okay? So it's your general municipal taxes plus your education, or sorry, plus your local improvement tax. Local improvement tax. Okay, let's look at an example. So Sullivan owns a home. They determined that he's going to have to pay tax on $100,500. That's his portion of assessment. Frontage of his home is 50 feet. His annual municipal tax rate is 14.056 mils. He must also pay local improvement taxes for both boulevard construction and lane paving. We want to calculate his total municipal taxes. Okay? Remember, this table for local improvement, that'll always be given to you. You don't have to, or they don't have to go on a reference sheet. Okay, so we need to find his general municipal taxes and his local improvement. So his general municipal, and that goes on the formula on the first page. That goes to the formula on the first page. So it's his total portion assessment, $100,500, divided by 1,000 to figure out how many thousands there are in 100,500, times the tax rate, times 14.056. And that gives us $1,412.63. So that's part of his municipal taxes. The other part of it is his local improvements, of which there are two. Remember, the frontage of his home, the width at the front of his property is 50 feet. So for the boulevard, he's going to have to pay 50 feet times however much it is per foot for boulevard construction, and that's 1081. So that's for the boulevard. Plus 50 feet times the cost of lane paving per foot, which is 1180. So that's how much he's going to have to pay for the lane paving. So I multiply those two amounts and add them together to get local improvement tax of $1,130. So therefore, his municipal tax, remember there's a difference between general municipal and municipal. His municipal, I just add the two amounts. So it's going to be 14,1263 plus 1130 is going to give us 2,543.13. That's how much he owes in municipal tax. Yes, that's yearly. But it's not all his property taxes. Education is also part of property taxes. I know it sounds kind of weird, but because you think some education would be something completely different. But they just included, what they do is so that they can just take all the taxes they're going to apply to you, the city, and put it all in one big number. And the education tax is very similar to the general municipal.
Does everybody have to pay an education?
Yes. Oh. Yep. Like I don't have any kids and I pay education taxes. Right? Yeah, I know. It's, I think, I can't remember if I'm exactly right here, but I think in Alberta, you can actually decide where your education taxes go to. Like they can go to private or public systems, I think. What's that? How was it? Basically, yes. Yeah. So here, well, let's have a look.
Yeah, I mean, my parents should make it all, but I would, they will show you. No, because you pay a benefit, what was under benefits?
That could be outside. That could be outside.
Oh, okay. Well, I see it in taxes, okay, but I've never gone through it. So there's this school limits on.
Let's see if we can.
Yeah, I just. Yeah. I just so.
School taxes.
Like, hey, it says, what is your current? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, but it says. What is it? Numbers.
I was trying to see if I could actually find, because the taxes are slightly different for each school division. For some school divisions, they might be a little bit more than the others. And that's usually based on because of the size of the school division or the number of students in that school division. So if you've got a really big school division, they'll probably charge a little bit more for your education tax because they're going to need more funds. Anyway, so to calculate your education taxes, like I said, it's very similar to you take the total portion assessment of your home. So they go back to that. total portion assessment divided by 1,000, because we're talking about the mill rate again, times the education mill rate. I mean, it's, you know, you asked an interesting question, Emma, that, I mean, the whole idea of taxes and payments to the government, it's not necessarily, you may look at it and say, well, that's not really fair. Like, what about people with no kids? Why do they have to pay it? You're right. But then you think about the Canada Pension Plan, okay? Canada Pension Plan, when you guys work, and you're 18 and you're working, you will contribute money to the Canada Pension Plan. But everybody benefits from that Canada Pension Plan, okay? So you're sort of, you're paying for yourself and you're possibly paying for others. It's just kind of the way the system works, right? But you can see how there would be all sorts of different ways you could do things. Okay, so back to Sullivan. Let's say his education tax is 15.668 mils. I think that's a little high. I think in Winnipeg it's a little bit lower, somewhere around 12. I remember seeing it somewhere. So to find his education tax, all we do is the same way we do as general municipal tax. Portion of assessment, 100,500 divided by 1,000 times the education tax rate or the mill rate, 15.688, and that will give us $1,574.63. So that's added to the property taxes. So to get his total property tax, it's going to be the municipal taxes. And remember, the municipal taxes are split up into two. It was split up into general municipal and local improvement. But we'll put those together, we'll call that municipal, plus the education taxes. So from example one, except from example one, the total municipal taxes were 2543.13. From this example, part A, the education taxes were 1574.63. So the total property taxes is going to be $4,117.76. Actually, now that I think about it, maybe the Canada Pension Plan example wasn't a good one. Unemployment insurance. That's another one. Everybody pays, like you'll pay unemployment insurance, but you may never be unemployed, but other people will, right? So that's the whole idea of a sort of quasi-socialist system, right? Where people are paying through revenues to the government, taxes to the government, things that benefit everybody. Okay. Okay. So that takes care of that. Yeah, sorry. Okay. Anyway, just another similar example, just to sort of get the hang of it. Okay, so this family, they own a home, portion assessment of $83,250. The municipal mill rate is 14.056. The education mill rate is 14.285. Their property has a frontage of 60 feet. They're charged local improvement tax for road oiling and lane lighting. So we want to get three things: the municipal taxes, which is comprised of general municipal and local improvement, the education tax, and then add those two amounts together on C to get the total property taxes. So remember, general municipal, and again, we've got a formula. How would you calculate it? 83,250, yes. Divided by 1,000.
Times 14.2. Or 14.0 plus.
Okay. $11,760. Local improvement. That's what we're going to use that table. So what do we have? We've got road oiling, which is how much? How much?
9.
You sure?
No. Was it $8?
$8. Times its footage, or its frontage. So 60 times 8 plus 60 times lane lighting. Don't worry. So that gives us $588. So here's municipal. Is going to be 11,716 plus 588. It's going to give us 1758.16. The education one is a one calculation. And it's very, like I said, very similar to the general municipal. So 83,250 divided by 1,000 times the education, which is 14.285. So in education taxes, this family is going to be paying $11.89. And then to find the total property taxes, we just add the amounts from A and B. So that's going to be 1758.16 plus 1189.23 is going to give us 2947. So that's basically what we're going to do with property taxes. Okay. Okay. There we go.